called down there to the jail, and they saying that he like basically playing with himself. And, we seen a video of him putting his thing on the person's head.
Don't make it no better. You feel me? He right along with use you, try to soak you to write songs for him, you know, and then don't call you after that.
Body all his cellies. He went in his celly box and ate all his food. It like made a whole meal out of celly box. While the celly was in the hospital for a day or two.
Come out. Come out. Cool. Hey. Hey, 5, 6, 29. Hey, stop.
When it comes to hip-hop, especially the drill scene, few producers have left a mark as big as Young Chop. He was a trailblazer, a genius in his craft, and his influence can still be heard in countless hit records. But somewhere along the way, it all took a bizarre turn. It was like a complete 180. One minute, he was on top of the game. In the next, he was at the center of one controversy after another. Young Chop started beefing with nearly everyone he once worked with, including big artists in the industry.
Don't make it no better. You feel me? He right along with use you, try to soak you to write songs for him, you know, and then don't call you after that.
Then things escalated, like him reportedly shooting at an Uber driver, and before long, he was in and out of trouble with the law.
What's that? Oh.
His downward spiral has now landed him in jail, and according to some sources, things have only gotten worse for him behind bars. Rumors swirling around suggest Young Chop might have lost his grip on reality. Reports have surfaced about his bizarre behavior in jail, from fighting every cellmate he's had to eating up all their food and even doing unspeakable things like putting his private parts on someone's head. It's clear something isn't right. People who knew him say he's not the same person they remember.
I did a few interviews with him over the years, and then at one point I feel like he just lost his mind.
Yeah, he lost it.
Come out. Come out. Cool. Hey. Hey, 5, 6, 29. Hey, stop. Stop it.
Theories about what happened to him are everywhere. Some say the fame and pressure got to him. Others speculate that he might have been drugged, maybe slipped a pill or something that messed with his mind.
He was the Kanye West of the drill.
He was.
Yep.
Absolutely. He could have still been in that position.
He just lost it, man. I think somebody slipped him a mitt.
Yeah.
And then there are those who compare him to Kanye West, saying he's a misunderstood genius whose mental health struggles were never taken seriously. Young Chop was once considered the Kanye of the drill movement, a pioneer who helped shape the sound of an entire generation. But what caused his life to spiral so out of control? Let's dive in deeper. Young Chop grew up on the south side of Chicago and got into making beats at just 11 years old. His cousin introduced him to FL Studio, a beat-making software, and Chop instantly fell in love with it. While other kids were out playing or getting into trouble, Chop was glued to his computer, teaching himself how to make beats. Little did he know those early days would eventually change the entire rap game. Before Chop and Chief Keef blew up, Chicago wasn't really a major player in hip-hop. Sure, there were legends like Kanye West and Common, but the city didn't have a unique sound that influenced the culture in the same way the East and West Coast did, or even the South, which had its moment with artists like Gucci Mane and Outkast. But all that was about to change when Young Chop and Chief Keef started linking up in the studio. Back then, Chop wasn't working in fancy studios with expensive gear. He was lugging around a massive desktop computer to every session, because that's all he had to work with. No laptops, no professional equipment, just raw talent and determination. Chop met Keef through a mutual friend, Edai, who introduced them during the making of Keef's mixtape Bang. Even though Chop was just getting started, his beats were already standing out. The tracks he made for Bang and another Keef mixtape called The Glory Road started getting some buzz in the city. People were paying attention, but Chop's rise hit a snag when he got arrested for firing shots from his car. After spending some time locked up, Keef got out and was ready to get back to work. According to Chop, Keef him up after he was released was Chief Keef. Keef reached out to him on Facebook and told him to bring his computer over so they could link up. Chop, who was still in school at the time, wasted no time. After classes that same day, he grabbed his computer and headed straight to Keef's place.
He got released from jail. He was on house arrest, and then he called me like, bro, I want you to come do my whole mixtape. I just brought my studio to his house every day, every day after school, like literally. School get out like 3:50. I'm at his house at like.
They ended up cooking up the track 300 in just one session, and that moment would mark the start of something huge.
Next thing you know, we got out and we did the first song he recorded when he got back out of jail was 300, and then next thing you know, we dropped the snippet. And it just went crazy.
Chief Keef already had a little momentum in Chicago, but 300 was the track that made people really take notice. The song captured the gritty energy of Chicago's South Side, with Keef's raw delivery and Chop's dark, hard-hitting production. The music video was simple, just Keef and his crew rapping in their neighborhood. But that rawness is exactly what made it resonate. There was nothing polished or commercial about it. It felt real, and that's what drew people in.
Bang, bang. 300, bang.
The success of 300 had both Keef and Chop on the rise, but what they dropped next would take the entire industry by storm. In March 2012, Young Chop and Chief Keef released I Don't Like, a track that would go on to define Chicago drill music. 300 was big, but I Don't Like was a whole different beast. The song blew up on YouTube, racking up over 1 million views in no time. It wasn't just a hit, it was a movement.
No. Sneak designs, that's that I don't like. No. Don't like.
The track's aggressive energy, paired with Chop's unmistakable production style, introduced the world to drill music and put Chicago on the map in a way no one had done before. But things got even crazier when Kanye West got involved. Kanye, along with Pusha T, Big Sean, and Jadakiss, jumped on the remix of I Don't Like, taking the song to an entirely new level. Suddenly, what started as a raw street anthem became a mainstream hit. The remix racked up even more views and streams, and everyone was talking about Chicago drill. Getting one of the biggest artists in the world to remix your beat sounds like a dream come true for any producer. But for Young Chop, it wasn't all smooth sailing. The I Don't Like remix featuring Kanye West, Pusha T, Big Sean, and Jadakiss brought massive attention to Chicago drill music and turned Chief Keef into a superstar. But Chop wasn't feeling how it all went down. In fact, this situation kicked off one of his first major beefs. Chop's original beat for I Don't Like had that raw, gritty sound that helped define drill music, but Kanye's remix flipped it into something entirely different. Fans loved it. It was a massive hit, but Chop felt disrespected. In an interview with XXL, he said the first time he heard the remix was on the radio, even though he had specifically asked to hear it before it dropped. I'm hearing the song and there's different sounds in the beat. It don't even sound like the real beat. It sounded like a rock star beat, and that's not how I do it. That's not my sound, Chop explained. To make matters worse, Chop never even got to talk to Kanye directly about it. He had to go through multiple people just to try to reach Yeah. Chop was actually in the studio when Big Sean laid down his verse, but it was recorded over the original beat. He had no idea the changes were coming until the remix was already out. There were even rumors that Chop was planning to sue Kanye over the situation, but those quickly died down after Kanye reached out to smooth things over. A few days later, Chop publicly said everything was cool between them. In 2013, Chop and Kanye even linked up in the studio while Kanye was working on his Yeezus album. Chop spoke about the experience during an interview with DJ Vlad, saying, "I sat down with him and like, bro is really mother effing talented. The ish is just genius work." It seemed like the drama had settled down, but that wasn't quite the end of it. By 2015, Chop was still expressing frustration over how Kanye handled the situation. In an interview with DJ Booth, Chop claimed Kanye came to him specifically to capture the drill sound he and Keef had created, saying, "He wanted me, and he wanted that sound. He was taking from us. You feel what I'm saying?"
Yeah, he wanted beat, and he wanted that sound. You see what I'm saying? He was taking from us.
In another interview from that same year, Chop accused Kanye of using people for their ideas and then cutting them off. Kanye don't make it no better, you feel me? He'd be right along with the ish, trying to soak up everything dudes know, and then don't call you after that.
Kanye don't make it no better. You feel me? He right along with use you, try to soak you the right songs for him, and then don't call you after that.
Beefing with a superstar like Kanye West is rarely a good career move, but for Young Chop, this wasn't the only storm brewing in his life. By 2016, his career and personal life were both heading into rocky territory. That year marked a tragic turning point when Chop lost two of the most important people in his life, his mother and grandmother. Chop was incredibly close to both of them, and their deaths hit him hard. His mom wasn't just his biggest supporter, she was also a constant presence in his life. Despite his success in the rap game, Chop never got his driver's license, so his mom often drove him around. Whether it was interviews, studio sessions, or road trips, they were always together. In 2015, Chop's grandmother passed away, and just a year later, his mother followed. Losing them back to back was devastating, and some believe this is where Chop's downward spiral really began. Even though 2016 was filled with personal tragedy, it wasn't all bad. After a few years of tension, Chop and Chief Keef squashed their beef and started making music together again. For a while, it seemed like Chop might be on the road to getting his career back on track. Reuniting with Keef was a major step in the right direction. But just as things started looking up, Chop found himself in a far more serious situation, one that nearly cost him his life. During an Instagram live chat with Gilly Da Kid, young Chop shared a wild story about a studio session he once had with Meek Mill and 21 Savage. According to Chop, he showed up to the studio packing heat. Literally, he claimed that as soon as Meek and 21 Savage realized what was going on, they dipped out of there fast.
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
21 Savage came at you.
I ain't saying his name, you said it.
Man, Savage ain't come at you, man.
Man, I ain't living like that. I'm telling you. I was in the studio with him and Meek. Ain't living like that. I had that you dig on me. Left the studio. Swear to God.
But that wasn't the end of the drama with Meek. After the studio incident, Chop said he tried to get Meek to collaborate with Polo G, but Meek never responded. For Chop, this wasn't just a brush-off, it was a sign of Meek's fakeness. During the same Instagram live with Gilly, Gilly tried to defend Meek, saying maybe it wasn't that deep. But Chop wasn't having it. He doubled down on his criticism, calling Meek fake and even dragging other big names into it. French Montana, Lil Wayne, and Cassidy all got called out by Chop as being fake gangsters too. It didn't take long for Meek Mill to respond. He hit back on Twitter, but instead of firing shots at Chop, Meek expressed concern for his mental health. Meek wrote, "It's obvious Chop having some mental issues. Y'all be gassing stuff so much y'all just ignore it. I've been getting beats from him for years. Hope he gets well." French Montana also chimed in, echoing Meek's sentiments, but in a harsher tone. French tweeted, "It's sad to see this. Young Chop need to be in a mental institution. It's only a matter of time till somebody take his life. Then all you gonna see is RIP. If somebody care about that man, go grab him and take him somewhere." 21 Savage also threw his 2 cents in, posting an Instagram story about the situation. He wrote, "Make sure y'all go get his tape when it drops because he needs the clout, and pray for him because he done lost his mind." Like Meek and French, 21 seemed more baffled by Chop's antics than angry about them. But Chop wasn't going to let that slide. He jumped on his own Instagram live to clap back at 21, saying they could fight anytime since they lived in the same area.
And 21, we live in the same area. Telling people that we live in the same, we go to the same Walmart. What's up?
As if juggling beefs with Meek and 21 Savage wasn't enough, Chop decided to stir the pot even more. He sent out a tweet claiming Meek was mad at him because Meek's girl had been unfaithful. He didn't stop there though. Behind the scenes, things got even more heated when 21 Savage slid into Chop's DMs with a threat. Instead of keeping it private, Chop posted the message for everyone to see, making it clear he wasn't backing down from anything. And then out of nowhere, Chop took a random shot at R&B singer Sean Kingston. The two had worked together in the past on Kingston's track Kissing Girls, but now Chop was questioning Kingston's preference. It seemed to come completely out of left field, leaving fans and followers scratching their heads. Later, Chop issued what seemed like an apology to Kingston, but in true young Chop fashion, it didn't take long for him to double down on his original comments. Young Chop kept adding fuel to the fire, taking aim at his new ops, and making sure everyone knew he wasn't backing down. In one particularly wild moment, he posted a photo of 21 Savage with his ex-girlfriend Amber Rose, holding a sign that read, "I'm a too." The trolling didn't stop there. Chop decided to take things offline and popped up in 21 Savage's old neighborhood, asking random people where 21 was. The entire thing played out on video, with Chop running up a massive Uber bill while driving around looking for his new rival.
Hey, big dog. Big dog. What's up, big dog? What 21 is that? What 21?
but things quickly escalated. Allegedly, while Chop was sitting in the backseat of his Uber, someone shot at the car. In the same video, Chop claimed that the attackers hit the Uber driver's windows, and he even offered to pay for the damage, casually throwing in, "They need to hire better shooters."
They need to go hire some more shooters, bro. What the bro?
Around this time, Chop also managed to stir up drama with King Von. During an Instagram live session, Chop jumped into the chat of King Von's girl.
Get this man off my life. Chop, big. Tell him going on.
Chop, hey, Chop, we don't even play like that over there. I think Chop trying to.
It was clear by this point that Chop was ready to clash with just about anyone, and his antics were becoming harder and harder to ignore. Things took an even darker turn later in 2020. Chop was arrested for discharging a firearm on his front porch in the middle of the night. Thankfully, no one was injured, but according to Chop, the situation wasn't as random as it seemed. He claimed that some goons had tried to follow him home, leading to him firing the shots. Of course, Chop being Chop, he posted the whole ordeal on Instagram, sharing footage of what went down.
What's up? Oh.
For a lot of people, this version of young Chop was unrecognizable. He'd always been a peaceful, behind-the-scenes guy in the music industry, but starting in 2020, something seemed to shift. It wasn't just the trolling or the beefs, it was a full-blown spiral that left fans and peers wondering what had caused such a dramatic change. Some pointed to the tragic losses Chop had suffered in recent years. His mother, who he was incredibly close to, passed away in 2016. Just a year before that, he'd also lost his grandmother. Those back-to-back losses clearly hit Chop hard, and many speculated that his behavior was tied to the grief he was struggling to process. But the chaos didn't stop. Just a week after his trip to 21 Savage's old neighborhood, Chop was arrested again, this time for reckless conduct. According to the arrest report, things got heated while Chop was riding in that Uber. He'd asked the driver to take him to a convenience store and then to an apartment complex where he claimed 21 Savage lived. When they arrived, it turned out not to be the right spot. That didn't stop Chop from hopping out of the car and asking people on the street if they knew where 21's house was. At some point, Chop got into an argument with a random man, and things escalated quickly. Chop allegedly pulled out a semi-automatic handgun, causing a scene before getting back into the Uber. As they were leaving, a sedan pulled up and shots were fired at the Uber, hitting several parts of the car. Chop then told the driver to chase the sedan, but they couldn't catch up. After all the chaos, Chop simply asked the driver to take him home. He even offered to pay for the damages to the car, but asked the driver not to report anything to the police. By 2022, Chop's life took yet another tragic turn. Reports surfaced that his brother had been involved in a violent domestic dispute with his girlfriend, which ended with her taking his life. It was a devastating blow for Chop, who by this time had already endured so much loss. Around the same time, fans noticed that Chop started going quiet on social media. By April 2022, young Chop's troubles caught up with him again. This time, he was arrested for jumping bail on his previous charges and failing to show up for fingerprinting. Since then, he's been locked up, and there hasn't been much news about his situation. When you look back, it's clear that young Chop's influence on the drill scene is legendary. As a producer, he worked with countless artists and helped put Chicago drill on the map. He even made a solid transition into rapping, dropping several albums that showcased his skills beyond just making beats. But despite all his success, Chop's career was overshadowed by controversy. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what caused his downfall, but it's undeniable that the young Chop we see today is far removed from the trailblazing producer he once was. As for what's next for him, that's anyone's guess.